Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Frankie and Sasha, who is demanding my attention, of course, because I'm on the floor and we're face to face, and she needs to learn how to give Daddy some space for a little bit. But tonight I'm on the floor of my. This is how much she loves me. Like, she can't just stay away for a minute. Okay, she's going now. So tonight I'm on the floor of my bedroom that I had when I was a teenager. And the reason is because I remember sitting on this floor a lot, and I remember just like listening to the radio and reading books about magic, and I'm really trying to reconnect with that Frankie, because that Frankie had no ego, well, hardly any ego, and believed in fairies and believed in magic. And I was able to manifest like so much shit because I didn't have that ego. And I believed and I wanted to believe, and I so believed in magic. And of course, as you get older and you go through things, you start to lose that. But anyway, tonight I wanted to talk to you guys about hexing. Woo! Because I know that's probably a subject that some of y'all will eventually ask me about. So, to hex or not to hex? So, I didn't make any notes for this, so hopefully I don't ramble too much, but my advice would be to, if you're thinking about doing any type of hex work, my advice to you would be to get a reading about the situation, so we can kind of examine all of the ins and outs, making sure that we have all of the facts before we move forward. So for example, you can like say like you're shuffling some cards and you're like, should I hex that bitch that cussed me out today? Like, she really had some fucking nerve. Like, I really want to throw her ass in a fucking jar and fuck up her whole life. Like, should I really do that? So let's say you pull some cards and you get Two of Swords. It's like, no, you're mad, you need to chill, and just tomorrow is going to be another day. No, do not move forward. You get something like this. Oh, Ace of Swords. To me, I would take this as a, with one card, I would say yes, because this is picking up your sword, like, bitch, you about to get cut, I'm gonna cut you. The World, I would see this as, you know what, this bitch ain't shit, you want a whole other level, and you don't need to be wasting your energy on hexing her. So those are kind of like some ways that you can consult your tarot deck and ask if you should. But I wouldn't. I mean, this was just for like demonstration purposes. I wouldn't recommend doing just like a one card pull for a yes or no. You really want your guides to show you like the ins and outs of the situation and what you should do to move forward. So I would encourage you to also make like your own spread. You can draw out your own spread and say like, okay, card number one, the situation. Card number two, the shadow. Like what is hidden? What is it that I'm not seeing? And then three, the outcome. Like if you should hex or if you should not hex. Or you can even do like two paths. So you can say one spread that I would use was if I was kind of exploring two different decisions. I would say like, okay, like should I hex or should I not hex? And so I would have one card for the situation, right? The overall situation at hand to represent that. And then what I would do is I would do like path number one, diagonal, like 3 cards going up, and that's like option number one. And you can say like this is the yes path and this is the no path, and you can see like past, present, future, like what how is it going to progress if I move forward with the hex, how is it going to progress if I go without it, and that'll kind of show you which outcome is most favorable. um and also, I think to keep in mind about hexing is that hexing isn't really anything to be played with. I mean, if you're just trying to fuck up someone's life because, I don't know, a bitch looked at you wrong or a bitch had a bad day and y'all had it out and you want to go home and do some shit to her, like that just shows like you're just not ready to even like explore that realm. Hexing was created for protection against enemies, against people that are coming for you, against people that are coming for your family, and people that you can't touch like physically. Like for example, when I was in middle school, that's when I really started to dabble and read and kind of getting more into those things, and I was bullied a lot in middle school. And me, I'm like this short, little, skinny dude, and there's like these big ass 8th graders who were like making my life miserable and taunting me and things like that. I couldn't physically hurt them, right? What did I have? I had magic, I had hexes, because that is what I had to turn to in order to protect myself and in order to bring my enemies down. And I'll tell you this story. I totally made it up, but all I can remember is that I took a piece of paper, I drew a pentagram on the piece of paper. I remember drawing in like symbols, like I don't know. I remember drawing in like some zodiac symbols. I drew in like some planetary symbols. Um, on the back of the paper, I wrote my target's name, and I totally made up this incantation totally off the top of my head that rhymed and everything. It was so badass. I really wish that I could go back in time and see what that was, because I would totally cherish it forever and wish I had it in my grimoire, because my target, literally the next day, we were in gym class and he was like, I don't feel good. He was telling everybody like, man, I don't feel good, like my stomach, like, whatever. And then he just started throwing up like all this phlegm into a trash can. He was just throwing up like profusely. And I was like, fuck, what did I just do? I just made this dude like really sick. And I was just kind of like, I guess that's what you get. And that's another thing too. So like kind of from that we can talk about, well, I got, because I know people are gonna ask like, well, what about karma? What about everything you put out you receive back times three? That is a Karma is a Hindu um, belief. Like that comes from that area of the world or that area of spirituality. And in hoodoo, or in like Mexican folk magic, or in hoodoo, we don't really believe in karma because it's a matter of protecting yourself. And if you cast a hex, or if you cast something on your enemy and you feel totally justified that you did what you had to do to protect yourself and your home and your family, that's not going to come back, because you don't have any guilt. If you do something and you have guilt afterwards, that's what's going to get you, because the universe is going to recognize that you did something to somebody that you shouldn't have, and it's going to be like, okay, now we're out of balance. Now there has to be some sort of balance after that. But if you hurt me and I'm like, I'm gonna get you, and I get you, I'm like, that's what you get. It's like the playing field is kind of leveled, is kind of how I see it. So um yeah. But if you're trying to just hex somebody just to be petty, just to whatever, that's is not gonna work out well for you. Um, and also in hoodoo, and then before I get, because I know that there's people out there that are like, hoodoo is for black people only, and I see that a lot, and honestly, it really hurts my feelings. But um, in my experience, when I really started to research here in South, like I live in South Texas, so I'm still very much connected to the South overall. And once I really started researching brujeria and Mexican folk magic and things like that, and the stories that I've heard of what people have done, it all came back to hoodoo. Every time I would research it, it all came back to that. So I was like, that's where it's at. That's where it is. And I've had readings. I've had readings from my godfather and from other people who say that I have a deep connection to, I have a really deep connection to Southern magic. And so that's why I've chosen to learn about those traditions and hoodoo and learn about Mexican folk magic in the South, because from my family and from their experiences, that's where it comes from. So I'm gonna get to the root of where that comes from. Another thing that we can talk about is recently, this jar behind me. This is a traditional, commonly used hex called a sour jar. So, the little story behind this guy is recently, well, not recently now, it's almost gonna be a year later, but around summertime last year, I was working with somebody who was just like the biggest dickhead ever, douchebag, asshole ever. Everybody hated working with him. People quit because of him, and he just thought he was the big old shit. He really wasn't. And one day, he decided to really disrespect me. And we had it out. We had words. I was like, in that period, getting I was getting into my spell work again. I wanted to get serious about my spell work again, and I wanted to start practicing, to start building my grimoire, and things like that, so that I can eventually share those things with other people. So I thought to myself, huh, what a perfect opportunity to try a sour jar. So what a sour jar is it is a jar that has a bunch of stuff in it that is just like really sour or hot. So, for example, this liquid in here is vinegar. But before you put the vinegar in, some of the ingredients that I used were peppers, lemons, cayenne pepper, things like that, because lemons are used to cut or to draw or to clear or to drive away, and then heat is used for that same thing to things just get so hot, like it's almost like if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Like if you can't take the heat in this jar, like get the fuck out of my life. And so what you do is you put things in this jar with intention. Some people put glass, people put nails, people put their own feces in here, their own urine in here for domination. Your urine is if that's to dominate or to control somebody. People put all kinds of fucked up shit in here, and that's the point. You want to make the jar as sour, as disgusting, as just rancid as you possibly can. And you're doing everything with intention. So like for example, I cut the lemons and I hold the lemons in my hands and I pray for them and I say, I bless and I activate, I enchant these lemons to drive this enemy away. They're also used to sour someone's life. So I bless and I enchant these lemons to sour the life of so and so. May nothing go right for him. May everything he touched turn to shit. That's why that could be why people put shit in the jar, literally. And you just like, with intention, and you do that with every single ingredient that you put in here. And then of course you get their name, put it on a piece of paper, write it down. Some people say write it 9 times, write it 13 times, just because those are the commonly used numbers for hexing. And maybe we can make a video about name papers later on, but name and date of birth is fine if you can get it. Other than that, name is okay. If you can get a piece of their clothing, even better, or something that they've touched, even better, and put it in there. When you get the name paper, make sure that you fold it away from yourself. And if you have to turn it to fold it, make sure you're turning it counterclockwise, because that symbolizes driving away. And you drop that piece of paper in there, you seal it up. I used birthday candles for this. I didn't have like a black pillar candle. You can anoint the candle with my hot foot oil that I just put out, and sprinkle it with some salt, some peppers on there. Light that bitch up and let it burn. I did that, I would say, in the matter of 2 months. Maybe it was 3. I would say within 2 to 3 months, he was fired. And I actually had 2. Now that I remember, I actually had 2 targets for this jar. And my first target was just giving me such a hard time. Like, he heard some rumor that apparently I started, which I didn't. And it was just a mess. And he was just making work for me. He was just trying to make work miserable for me. And I wasn't having it. I was like, you know what? I was here first. I love this place. I've made really good friends here. You're not about to fuck this up for me. And I'm about to show you that even though I can't fuck you up with my hands, I have other methods. And within about 2 months, he got fired by the first target. And then shortly after, the first target was also gone. And I had shared what I was doing with a couple of my coworkers, because a lot of people had wanted to get rid of them, and they were like, dang, like, you called it, like, you really did that, you really, like, and I'm like, yeah. And did I feel bad? No. Everybody hated him, I hated him, and they were just toxic people, toxic for the workplace. Nobody wanted them around, so I didn't feel bad getting them the hell out of there. Let's see, what else can we say about hexing. I guess that's pretty much it. So I just had fun, a little bit of story time for you guys, and just remember that if you want to hex somebody, let it be your last resort. You know, some people are smart. Like I can't go to jail. And then ultimately, hexing, going back to that, like hexing was created for protection. Like in hoodoo, and you know, the slaves couldn't physically harm anybody. I mean, they were just completely oppressed, completely powerless. They couldn't do anything. So they have these methods of protection from their enemies and getting revenge on people that hurt their families and things like that. That's why these things were put in place. And so don't disrespect that. Understand why it was made and why people had to do it, because it was literally their only option, because they couldn't physically do anything about it. You know, I've even heard stories of, I have never had to do one of these, and I hope that I never have to do one of these. But every time Halloween comes around, I like to buy these little coffins just in case I ever needed to use them. But honestly, you could literally kill a bitch with one of these. Literally put them to death. I don't ever see myself having to do that. I don't ever want to do that, but that's just like the literally, like, from the stuff that I know and the stuff that I've heard. I know that people have gone to those lengths to get revenge for their families when their cases are justified. So that is what I have to share about that. And if you guys have any questions, please leave a comment down below. If I forgot to say hello to everybody that returned to watch, and thank you to everybody who is a new subscriber. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like this and chat with me, then you can also subscribe and hit that notification bell, and we'll get to know each other. We'll have fun. And alright, y'all, well, I hope y'all have an amazing weekend, and I had fun. See ya.